This is YNB Collins, and I am joined with.
Brother Wolf here.
Look like that one hurt.
To my soul.
We are the Benchmark Podcast. We're trying to go ahead and use a little bit of critical thinking and life experiences to do better, but we have a problem that's bigger than us right now. It is a statewide problem as declared by President Biden. So if you've not heard about it, the crew of Saline has their parade route, and they're trying to come up from the Gulf to us. That was the best one I've seen so far.
That is a good one. That is a good one.
So if you don't understand what we're talking about, we have the problem with saltwater intrusion. Why it's a concern, what we need to do about it, various ideas, and moving on from that point. So let's go ahead and get some basic terminology out the way. Number one, if I use the word parish, remember we have a high Catholic influence in the state, and parish means the same as county.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two, we're dealing with saltwater intrusion. So what that means is water from the Gulf of Mexico is moving inland in towards the Mississippi River, and that salt water is going to go ahead and affect various towns, townships, regions, and so forth in regards to the quality of the water.
Yeah.
Now, if you can't figure it out right now, we don't want salt water. We don't want to drink it. It affects us in multiple ways.
You know, one of the things that I think you just now touched on it, and it was something very important because I have a friend of mine, SFLD, who I spoke about on one of the other podcasts. He said since he's from another state, he doesn't get how water goes upstream in order to cause a problem. He's like, how is that happening, whereas the water is going upstream instead of downstream? Because water heads down, not up. It's not natural, you know. It's not natural.
Well, number one, life has been weird, so I'm going to just chalk it up to whatever at this point.
Right.
But simply put, because we're in a dry season or a hot season, we don't have as much flow. So this is an argument between flow and stagnant pressure. You know what I mean? If it's easy to catch something that's about to fall, but when it's already falling, true kinetic force and motion, you can't really stop it. So because the Mississippi River, we're going through a drought phase, it has less flow. So that means it's easier for the Gulf of Mexico to go forward and intrude inland. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
intrusion.
I mean, it's in the name, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's because there is less flow, less active water coming downstream to the Gulf that it's actually changing the meeting of the two. You know what I mean?
My brother, the environmental science major from past life.
Oh no, it's still valid this life. Fuck you.
It is.
Fuck you on that one.
It is.
So why is it a concern? Well, number one, the salt water coming up is a concern because typically speaking, it's bad for the ground. It will go ahead and infiltrate, intrude, then infiltrate, and then it gets into drinking water. That's a problem. We don't want to go ahead and do that because number one, the easy one that should be obvious. If you've ever eaten good Louisiana food, you know why we all have diabetes and we're all obese.
Right. And have high blood pressure.
And what do you not need when you have high blood pressure?
Salt.
You don't need a sodium diet.
Right.
So this is where we have afflicted communities where we have to consider what are we going to do for them. So that is a concern. Now, combine that with easier than that is this. Salt degrades things. It erodes things. And imagine what that does to get mass amounts of salt water, high concentrations in your pipes.
Right.
If you've ever, what was it, 8 years ago, we had a massive freeze in New Orleans. And, you know, most people have insulated pipes, so it's not even a thing. We don't have insulated pipes because the temperature rarely drops below 40.
Right. The city shuts down if the temperature drops around 42, something like that. Whole city drops down.
I think it's 30, 35, I think is when we start doing it. But neither here nor there. The point being is that if you have massive amounts of salt water going through your pipes, there's a likelihood, especially if you have metal or lead pipes specifically, that there'll be erosion, health effects concerning it. And yes, if we've all, I have been inside the ocean before. I didn't die from the salt water. You know what I
Right.
mean? But consuming it, that'll be a problem. Having it in your clothes, not as big of a problem, but doing it consistently, it will degrade your clothes.
Right.
So this is something that you got to go ahead and consider. Next point is, so we went over the fact that it's going to affect the drinking water, low sodium diets, corrosion. Now the other two that's really distinct, they're almost hand in hand. Is we are not the largest farming community in the world, but you know, just like I know, there are farmers around in the southern regions, and where do they get their water from? The Mississippi. And if
The
the
Mississippi
Mississippi is
River.
contaminated, you now cannot irrigation is no longer an option.
All of those lands that were gotten from the Louisiana Purchase, yeah, that's all connected. Yeah, so we got it all as a bundle deal, and guess what? That bundle is now getting ready to affect us all.
I'm not sure that's exactly how it works, but sure, let's go with that. But yeah, so that's the next concern, and then combine that with the easy one: business effects. The greater New Orleans area, the majority of our business is from HRT, hotel, restaurants, tourism. I am a bartender. I get my money from slinging drinks. If I cannot put rocks in my drink, I have a problem because now nobody wants hot alcohol.
Right.
And then if it's salty rocks, I am so unless I'm selling every margarita known to man, we're kind of having a problem, you know.
Yeah.
Now combine this with the fact that what if you're a restaurant? What are you going to do? How
Right.
are you going to address this? How much if you're a restaurant and you can't clean your dishes, or you can't serve water, and do you shift to bottled water? Should you shift to bottled water? Is that a viable option? Can you find a desalinization for your area? Is that feasible? Reverse osmosis, is that feasible? Typically, on a commercial scale, potentially. A residential scale, probably not.
I mean, I was just thinking, brother, this industry was just hard hit less than 5 years ago by COVID.
Hard hit, you're being kind.
Yeah, exactly. So as I'm saying, so now it's got another blow coming to it.
And I
like,
mean-
that sucks.
And let's be real with this. We know the problem is here. We're doing things, and by we, I mean most residents. I have some water already stocked up. I want to go get some more. As a manager of a retail establishment, I'm pretty sure you've been putting in back orders for more water because you know it's going to go.
Yeah, it's coming. I mean, right now my store is fully stocked with water. You know, even though people don't like certain brands of water because it actually does taste a little salty. They're also
I'm about to say they're going to go for that salt over the what's going to happen.
yeah, exactly. But because we know this is coming, that makes a big difference. You know.
But it concerns me for two reasons. Number one, I'm waiting for the hysteria to hit because I never understand how and why people act. I can understand when the Rona first hit, how we had a distinct concern with making sure you had enough grocery staples to get through because you didn't know how things were going to be. I can understand that. But taking all the toilet paper,
Right.
why are you taking the toilet paper if you're not eating?
Exactly.
Nothing's coming out. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So-
So, like
ahead,
you
I'm
said,
sorry.
it definitely makes a difference. As far as the actual hysteria, the government did put out something not that long ago, which it was another thing where they're like, nobody be afraid. We're the government. We have this under control.
That's more reason to be afraid.
That has never worked in any situation for the government to come in and say that. But it's like telling somebody to be calm and everything like that. It rarely ever works out well. But they have said that that they will provide all of the water. Like they said, so many billions of gallons of water a day or something like that for the area.
So this is where I can jump in. I made it a point to look up. Intern, show notes. I'm sending you 2-3 links. So to jump back for a second, we know what the problem is. The intrusion's happening. And to make this not a problem, we have option number 1, reduce the salt by actually extracting it from the water. Option 2, introduce a massive amount of water so the salt doesn't matter, or get water from a new source. So diversion, salt extraction, or water addition. That's what it amounts to. That's the easy ways to do it. Apparently, the Army Corps of Engineers, in all of their glory, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, they're going to be trying to barge in 36 million gallons a day. That's a lot of water to bring, and it seems to me that we wouldn't need to do that if we had better options from the Ohio River and snow melt and so forth. This seems like, and I don't want to sound disgusting, but if you're a New Orleanian, you've been at the mouth of the Mississippi for a while. And what does that mean? Everything that had to come down the river came from somebody else.
Right.
So, hey, if you have some spare water, throw it this way. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Good to go as far as I'm concerned. But we want to go ahead and address these water concerns. And the ways to do it, I talked about reverse osmosis. The other one is desalinization. The problem is that these are not cost-efficient methods. Are there things we can do? Yes. But the water used to go ahead and begin the process and the cost to build it, they are not worthwhile. And you brought it to my attention because I had worked a few doubles, so I was not in this world as far as news. You have to send me the link, but apparently Jefferson Parish is diverting and getting supplies for their own, so they're actually enacting diversion of their own accord.
Yes, so they have gone to several engineers themselves. They take it on their own volition in order to go to several engineers and get them to build a tunneling system in a series of pipeline in order to get water from further uphill, whereas the water may be more, upstream, whereas the water is more fresh water soluble from there, and bring it down towards just that
the more
area
afflicted
was
parishes.
yeah. So that's their thing. They did get the okay from the Army Corps of Engineers. Of course, they're like, sounds like a plan to us. You know,
it doesn't come out of our budget. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, exactly. You know, kudos to Cynthia Lee Sheng for finding a solution to the group, her constituents' problem.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And this is one of those things. Why do you care? Well, considering the idea that this current problem is due to the fact that we are under drought. What's going to happen for other areas comparable to Denver, Arizona, Utah, Wyoming, parts of California? The same concepts are going to happen to where either you won't have enough water or the water will be contaminated now because you don't have enough. What is it? If you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the precipitate.
I mean,
chemistry humor, but at the same time.
Think about this. Famous rivers of the world, the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Nile, they're all drying up. It is not looking good right now as far as that's concerned, you know?
Yeah, so we need to go ahead and do more what? Water conservation, water restoration efforts. I mean,
Right.
Easy thoughts, easy options. And like I said, kudos to President Biden. Not my favorite, but I will say that he did what? The easy thing. He said, we're going to have a problem. Let's mobilize and get ahead of this before it becomes a true problem. So thank you, President Biden. Much appreciated.
Definitely.
Now, with that said, what is your biggest fear or concern from this? Because for me, as a bartender, I'm frightened about the fact that I might be out of work for a few days. And then all of a sudden that means I have to use the credit card. And then if I have to use the credit card, now I'm behind. And that all you need is one straw to break the camel's back. So what's your concerns?
Well, I have some things, some two written things that I had questions from listeners about. First thing is ice makers. Okay, so ice makers in the fridge. The water that travels through those goes through several processes and several steps. Well, first of all, the one I believe I know the answer to. If an ice maker does not have a filter on it, but it does, its normal process of freezing up, condensing water, and then creating it from that will have the salt water inside of it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just verifying that for other people that have asked this question.
Well, here's the better question, and I'm going to tease them for a second. You don't have Google?
Yeah. Look, this is just, they do have Google, but I just want to go ahead and state these things to put that what they will probably find from off of Google in one spot.
Well, the way I'll describe it is this, is that if you're trying to make a cake and you have flour and eggs, but you don't put sugar in, you're not going to have a good cake.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're only as good as the ingredients you have. So if the ingredients you have are lackluster, you're going to get a lackluster product. So there is a possibility that depending on how many pipes you have, or it might get caught up further out or inside the internal, so therefore as much salt might not come out. But will you, at the end of the day, get salt ice? Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Even if you do have an ice maker with a filter, in which they do have several ice makers with filters.
Now, this is where I want to be specific, because one, this is, you should always consult an expert.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna put it this way: it depends on your filter. How good is your filter?
Is your filter?
That's
Exactly.
what it
That's
amounts
what I
to.
was thinking. When we were at when I used to work at Sears quite many moons ago, one thing we used to talk about is the strength of certain filters.
Yeah, and they'll tell you like a filter is XYZ number of microns across, and that lets you know how much or how big the precipitate is that can filter through or pass through this funnel, membrane, whatever you want to call it. So if things are that big or that small, you know what they can go through or what they can't go through. It's that simple.
I mean, I would right now, if I had a refrigerator with a filter. My ice maker that I have on my refrigerator does not have a filter, so I already know where that's going. But if I had a refrigerator with a water filter on it, I would be calling that water filter company and ask them about how this would impact that water.
Very intelligent. I salute you. I have good move.
Yeah.
That's what you should be doing.
So that's what I would do. The second question that I have to ask is for people with Brita filters, because I had a lot of people saying, if I use my regular Brita filter, should that help? Should that curtail that problem? If I ran my water through, I know plenty of people, my brother included, that has a setup whereas they have their pitcher and then they have their Brita filter on the top of it, and they pour the water in and it goes down and it filters it through and it goes to the bottom. Is that all it will take if they ran a Brita filter from off of that?
Once again, it's a nuanced question. The biggest concern is how much salt are you getting out of the faucet? What is the concentration? So theoretically, your number is going to be XYZ parts per million. I'm going to go ahead and make it more simple. We got a number between 0 and 1, and that's a percentage. 0 means you have no salt in the water. 1 means you're licking salt.
Uh-huh.
You want that number closer to 0, and that's the way you know you're good.
Right. That's healthy.
But the problem is we don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
So I don't want to go ahead and give something out and people say, oh, Colin said do this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying consult an expert and go that. But the closer you are to 0%, the more comfortable I'd be. I filter my water anyway, which is going to segue to the next point that I want to get into. Hysteria.
Right.
I talked earlier about the fact that during the Rona, people did what? Oh, my God, I must have all the TP. Oh, my God, I must have all the bread. You're on a low-carb diet. What the fuck are you doing?
Right.
You know? The biggest concern I have is that at this point in my life, we know, to quote Dave Ramsey, if we know that we're going to have a rainy day, then why don't we have an umbrella? That's the simplest idea we have. So, for example, and I'm quoting Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast, if we know we're in an area where blackouts and brownouts are a likely occurrence, why don't we have flashlights and candles available to combat that occurrence?
That's a good point.
If we know we live in Hurricane Alley and we know there is a large propensity for a lack of utilities to not be available to me, why are we not making it so that way these things are not built into our life cycle, lifestyle already?
That definitely sounds true.
I plan to, before things get crazy, I already have 20 gallons on hand. I'm a single man. I'm usually out and about. But because of the fact that more businesses will be impacted and likely will close instead of dealing with the problem, I'm going to need to go ahead and get a few more cases of water. I'm going to try to go to Costco, get 2, 3, 4 cases, leave it there, and it's going to be what it's going to be. Yes, I will go ahead and filter the water, and I will go ahead and taste some. Drinking some salt water will not go ahead and drop me to the ground screaming and howling to the moon. But if I can still taste it, this is not something I need in my life.
Right.
You know? So it's a rather simple solution. I think if you use a little bit of common sense, you'll be fine. But this is one of those cases where you already see what's literally coming down the pike, or coming up the pike in this case. Go ahead and start prepping for it, man. There's no reason to not have this be part of your preps.
I know people that have those filters, like I was talking to you about, and they have already started filtering and saving up for what they believe may be coming by already filtering the water and getting it through. They have gallons of it that they've been building up and stacking up. The first night they heard about it, they did 4 gallons. The next day they did another 4 gallons.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what you should be doing.
And that was what they had started doing.
So going back to what I said before, since we've lived in Hurricane Alley most of our life, right? One of the standards of being is that if you are going to be without running water, you want to have, arguably speaking, a gallon per person per day.
Right.
And that's assuming a low impact lifestyle. If you're actually going to be doing stuff like, okay, let's say, you know, it's the nuclear family, you know, mom, dad, Dick, Jane, and Spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, dandy. Spot's going to need his water no matter what. Dick and Jane, you're going to have them inside because there's nothing to do, and you're going to hear them whine about lack of AC. But you still got to cook for an entire family. You still need to drink your water. You still need to have hygienic uses for water, whether it be flushing the toilet, whether it be brushing teeth, etc., and so forth. So that water will go rather quickly. Now, can you use gray water for certain things? Sure. Once we have water to dump from cooking, we could probably use that to help flush a toilet. Cool, dandy, whatever.
I mean, but you should be able to flush your toilet with salt water. Am I right, brother? Or do I not know something that...
What did I just say about corrosion in pipes?
Yeah, I do get that, but also, won't the water still be in those pipes? I'm just...
Think about it like this. Do you know what a gooseneck is? And I don't mean a literal gooseneck, but I'm talking about the plumbing term of a gooseneck. Or it's sometimes called a P-trap.
Yes, I do know what a P-trap is.
Okay, how does a P-trap work?
I recently got a snake, by the way, a plumber snake, and it was quite an experience. I'll save that for another podcast. But yes.
Fair enough. So you know how it works?
Yes.
So think about it like this. You have an area that's trapped. In that area, you get a lot of sediment and whatnot and so forth and so on. And if you let that water evaporate, all your scents from the backflow from all the reservoir comes through. And what happens right there? All that stuff just sits there.
Yes.
Imagine if you just have salt water just sitting there and it's not flowing.
And so my thing is in those situations, you actually would want to be using it constantly. Am I right? In order to stop it from sitting there.
This is a column A, column B argument. The best idea was never to have to be introduced into the system.
Right, but also you really won't know it until like they said on one of the news reports, they were saying that once you taste it's there, it's already been there
It's
for
been
a
there
while.
for a while. It's
And
kind of
so-
like when you see one cockroach, you probably have, 10, 20, 30 already there. One mouse, you means you have a family, stuff like that. It's one of those things where you're going to get a lot. Now, my thought is that if I have it there, I want to find a way to, like I said before, we have three options: new water source, remove the salt, or add so much more water. And when you really think about it, diversion and water addition are kind of the same concept. So what I want to do is put so much water down it, so much fresh water down it, that it will dilute it, so there will be a lack of effect. Like, it's just going to go back to that one thing. Occam's razor. Keep it simple, stupid. Let's not try to try to bring so many complexities to this.
Okay.
And that's my plan. So simply put, as a single man, I'm going to go ahead and have no less than 3 to 4 cases of water. I have a food grade carboy for some extra water as well. I'm going to have a few pots filled up, and I'm going to be ready to go.
Are you aware of what the estimate was that they said the amount of time that if this intrusion does fully compense, what they said was the estimated amount of time in which they said it may be we may be dealing with it?
I've seen a few estimates. I've not seen the most recent one, so I'm not going to play the guessing game. I'm going to say, I give up. Please tell me.
They said that they expect that it at least will continue until the end of November.
Well, that makes sense, too, because when we get colder, you have less motion and harder to push things through. So that makes sense. I was going to say probably the new year, but it depends on how much we get. If we get, like, we're playing the shoulda, woulda, coulda game. At this point, we need to, in my estimation, we need to prep for the worst case scenario for 3 reasons. Number one, if it doesn't happen, we went ahead and protected the system. We used it as a prophylactic, for lack of a better term. Number two, there's a likelihood this can repeat. So if this can repeat, we don't have a problem with it. We're good to go. And number three, we probably need to frickin' practice. So we know what to do or what not to do. Like, I hate to say it, but the National Guard, hey, you need your few weekends a month to go ahead and get your GI Bill? Come on, play dress up, hand me my MRE so I can keep moving. You know what I mean? Am I saying it's fun? No. Am I saying it is what it is? Yep. So that's the easy way I look at it. If you have no less than 4 cases per person in your family, go ahead, be safe, stay informed, keep paying attention to the news to know what you do or don't need to do. And if your neighbor needs help, please give them a hand. Don't be a jackass.
Yeah.
Like, we're all doing the same thing. And if they're your neighbor, you're on the same pipe system together. You know what I mean? So don't be that guy. If they need to go ahead and come by your house and take a quick shower, man, let them whole bath. You know what I mean? Don't do all that.
You're right.
Now, it looks like you had something else you were about to say. Look like you had something else that...
No. I was about to say, I have several elderly neighbors, and I definitely feel as though, thinking about them in my mom in the same situation, if I would definitely want somebody to help. So yeah.
So it's one of those. It's not as bad as people are thinking about it, because, like I said before, if you've ever swam in the ocean, you know what happened. You didn't open your eyes because the salt's going to burn.
Right.
That's it. I mean, come on now. How many professional surfers do you know? And you know what they swim in?
Saltwater. There you go.
And if you've been working on getting that beach bod and that beautiful blonde hair, hey, I'm not saying swim in the Mississippi River, but
Right.
So yeah. So with that said, you got anything else for us, brother?
No, brother. I think it's closing time.
So with that said, the hysteria is not needed, guys. Slow and steady wins the race. Have your water. Be good to your neighbors. Be good to each other. Said Bill and Ted. And just pay attention to the news. Party on.
Thank you for listening to the Benchmark Podcast, a product of Benchmark Media, LLC, where we always attempt to establish a positive benchmark. We would like to remind everyone that the views and opinions expressed are strictly the views and opinions of each individual, and those views do not reflect the stance of Benchmark Media. Any opinion stated is not to be construed as professional advice or help. Please contact a professional for any help you may require. We would like to thank all of our guests for today and also for contributions of our listening family. Remember to contact us at therealbenchmarkpodcast@gmail.com or www.therealbenchmarkpodcast.com. Or you can follow us on social media, Facebook, or Instagram. And if you'd like to be a friend of the show, you can donate to us on our PayPal.
You can give me a drink.
All rights reserved by Benchmark Media, LLC.